Dad won't walk me down the aisle and takes a Hawaii trip with his favorite daughter. Story 1. Dad won't walk me down the aisle. Instead, he's taking a trip to Hawaii with his favorite daughter. My 35-year-old dad won't walk me down the aisle because I've never been his favorite. My younger sister Leah, 28 years old, is his favorite and always gets what she wants. Even at 35, they're both immature as hell. Leah and my mom have been taunting me with the fact that Leah is Dad's favorite daughter, making me believe that I'm stupid enough to ask my dad to walk me down the aisle and to gather my whole family for my wedding, even though Leah had bailed on my milestone at 28. She announced to everyone that she had gotten pregnant accidentally and that she was getting married a month after me, which would mean that she'd have the baby by then. My parents and everyone else are going to her destination wedding in Hawaii, while mine isn't considered a milestone worth their trouble. Leah's wedding is clearly more significant, and they don't want to acknowledge that they can't attend both. I couldn't believe my family's behavior, so I stopped talking to them. It's been 3 years of no contact with my family. I don't care for Leah or her unplanned children, nor do I appreciate her immature self. I genuinely hope my little siblings are trolls, but just in case, thanks for the title. I really need people to realize that I've been the mature one. Update: after 3 years of no contact with my selfish, immature family, I've learned to navigate life on my own without any support. Leah's whole situation, her unplanned pregnancy, her destination wedding, and her Hawaii vacation with everyone has been utterly useless to me in my life. I've been a happily married woman for almost a year now, and I just received a positive pregnancy test. I'm pregnant with my first child. At first, it felt like just another weekend, where everyone was having fun at Leah's baby shower and my organized destination wedding in Hawaii, while I was stuck here at home doing some online classes for a work promotion. I was just a tired housewife with my sweet, loving husband. This happened 2 days ago. I never expected my husband Jason, or Oreo, my small dog, and Bo, my loving Labrador that I adopted about 3 months ago, to be involved. Jason is my second husband. My first husband, Steve, left me after a year of marriage. After 3 years of a failed marriage, he dipped, leaving a letter for me to read at mile 3. I cried and felt broken. I genuinely felt like giving up and had thoughts of ending my life. I consider myself lucky that, after 3 days, I met Jason. He was the one who paid for my drinks and helped me cool off, understanding what I had gone through with my first husband. He picked me up when I was spiraling down the wrong path, and he has been so good to me. I've been such a good person to myself, rescuing dogs. I wouldn't wish to complain about my husband. Honestly, Jason does his share of dog duties, and I let the dogs do their thing. They are truly angelic. However, that day was different. I looked at my phone and decided to slide into video mode to announce my pregnancy. I've told everyone I know, and they've started sending me Korean baby items. The dogs were cuddling and playfully fighting with each other, turning it into this cute contest they do whenever I stand on top of the stool to record my videos. I've recorded videos like this before and knew to clip them immediately. However, when my attention drifted to Jason's cousins playing in the living room, things got a bit rough, and Kevin, my big dog Bo, accidentally toppled Oreo. My late grandmother used to tease me about having a farm with cows and lots of dogs, which was a dream I held until I turned 25. Anyway, my sweet dog Oreo could have been badly hurt while trying to tumble off the stool where I was standing. I panicked and jumped off the stool. I didn't fall hard or land awkwardly because I had my dogs for support, but I landed on my left foot too hard, and I felt a snap in my ankle. My husband rushed to me, lifted me up, and was furious at the dogs, thinking they had hurt me. He yelled at his cousin to leave. He actually thought my babies were hurt. He grabbed his car keys and gently apologized to the dogs, assuring them they'd be okay before taking me to the hospital. To my amazement, the doctor said that while I had slightly sprained my ankle, it had happened because the weight of my abdomen made it difficult for me to wear high heels. All the pain, headaches, and discomfort were blessings, and I'm super grateful. The non-pain and the way my husband looked at me made me realize that I genuinely can't believe I was the one to tell Jason that he hasn't looked at me any differently since day one. He has been so good to me all along. Having 2 dogs to watch is entirely his problem. Jason's mother, his stepdad, and even my late grandmother have known about my pregnancy since the day after my positive test. I decided to discuss it with others and include them, especially since they've known since Valentine's Day. I made my wedding date announcement video, told all my friends, and arranged a girls' bonding time at my place with snacks and pastries. I received 3 unopened boxes of Korean baby items and 2 half-opened ones, along with a note that read, "Mom deserves a parent's trip test, Jason. Are you planning to go on a Korean parenting test and blow that test budget on only other parents here in America?" They're planning to steal funds for road trips and parties. My late grandmother is using her social media to arrange a sold-out event, while my husband and I are facing 45 million problems that come with a crying baby in dirty diapers. I'm furious, even if my husband is happy with his family visiting his cousin Chris while letting them wander around my house, holding my dogs with wet hands after wiping off who knows what, he still won't allow them to do their own dishes. I'm not inclined to do the dishes myself while I chill out with Jason. I just feel overwhelmed and I can't imagine what could make things worse. Mom asks me, "Were they really that sad for you? They're planning everything without me, soon to have blood everywhere and losing pulse, with Jason cooking me ketchup chips by mixing red chili and tomato sauce." I need some positivity in the comments. Seriously, guys, it has already been miserable. What's going on now that could possibly make any of my issues worse? Let me pin and reply. Guys, my husband peeks through the door to find out who the dogs sniffing around him while he does the dishes are. Apparently they're now our dogs. Story 2: Dad faked a heart attack and forced me into a wedding, even after I told him 100 times that it was meant for Leah, even though he thinks it's about the baby I'm having. Dad took Leah's bow for me and handled everything with ease. When Leah threw her short rants at us, reminding Jason and me that my late grandmother's baby gift was meant for her first biological grandkid, she claimed she was the screenwriting queen. She actually stayed at my parents' house while sleeping in my bed and holding my dog without my permission. When Leah, 28 years old, married her 30-year-old husband and accidentally got pregnant, she stole my milestone day and made it all about herself. My dad, 62 years old with good credit and access to funds, has conned, scripted, and tricked me and married Leah, while my husband Jason is now 36 years old. Dad, at 62, threw a helmet in his hand, rolled his eyes, tightened his grip, and faked a heart attack after everything that was stolen. At 35 years old, I don't even need to tell my husband about food and essentials, just sleep. I've had an exhausting sleep schedule of 5 to 6 hours, and honestly, everyone knew my husband was in his place, wandering around yelling Leah, science Leah. Both Leah and my parents had a fight over my dear husband, confusing him while I was pressured to smile yo-ho-ho with them at the table, because someone somewhere must be happy that I was civilized. This must be the happiest story and title I will always read. I've thought of stabbing myself and screaming, sobbing, and wrecking on the floor, asking why Leah has always been the favorite. Leah, with her comical accents, gleefully announced on Mom's camera that Dad believed it was all about her for an hour. It was an impromptu action, but the dog barked in excitement because he had sold out for Leah's climb 2 years ago. I've asked them countless times to tell Jason to leave. I've tormented them and cried on their legs. My dad, a 5 bodybuilder with his rants, helped Leah steal my milestone because she believes she needs to prove herself to Jason. Both Leah and my parents have humiliated me with Dad's fake heart attacks around Jason, taking everything so lightly, when Leah threw containers at me. Claiming Jason was hers and made comments about Mommy, Jason asked me not to film those moments and just tell people they were enjoying your breath. It was an initial honeymoon phase you and your husband were developing. I've had this chaotic sleep schedule of 5 to 6 hours those days, compounded by Mom's nagging. Both Dad and Leah used yo-ho-ho with Jason, gifting him an amethyst 4.5 inches long. Leah's empty, but right now it belongs to them, and was cleaned using her body wash. While I can't seem to get over how I allowed my dad to rant and roll through this whole situation with Leah, this has been a catastrophic situation that involved my husband in tears before, and for me. I don't know what my dad has taken from my life, stealing my dog, my husband, and my peace, yet he seems to think it's all fine. Does Leah really think Jason is her husband, and do my parents think they can disregard my needs and wants? Is this action of Leah with my husband winning points? I know this sounds crazy, but that point win seems to heal my wrecked heart. It's a shame that this win came at the cost of me. My husband Kevin has given me professional advice and wiped my tears. I regret watering plants in front of my mother's house, taking care of the leaves, and feeling like a child myself. Leah is the favorite, and this is such bullshit. What is left of my parents? A 1-year professional lab enrollment offer at MIT has suddenly collapsed in Leah's hands, messing with my future. Will I humiliate myself by trying to clean everything back to how it was with Jason? Do I need an advisor, or am I just being a leech? Will Will I ever let my parents see my child? Jason, my husband, has said he'll never visit his parents. I don't need the same reason. For my first failed marriage, Steve cheated on me, and my dad turned out to be a con man. Story 3. Leah and her husband tricked my blind husband into losing credits from the lab he's enrolled in, and called me selfish for calling out the Disability Resources Fund, which was stolen for watching Mom. My husband, the 60-year-old father of my husband Leah, is blind. Leah has become a rising star among blind people. I don't have the heart to say no, yet I feel the stress of unspoken things piling up. My blind husband, 29 years old, is enrolled in a U.S. accredited sleep pod research course to fulfill his degree in data analytics, working on sleeping, drinking, and the science behind sleep drugs. His maternal grandmother set up a fund under his name, begging him never to seek insane academic standards to compete with men or his own blind father. I've been drained and undone because of my father and Leah's cruel treatment. Leah called me selfish for pointing out that my husband, blind as he is, tripped in her trap. Leah made my mom a slender drink, while the rising star among blind folks. And my dad, a careless credit lover, left my blind husband's home unturned, even though it has been liberating. My husband saved his cash to give his father credits before the fund disaster. Dad took Leah's side while my husband drank and celebrated his blindness. Story 2. Dad says I'm not his real daughter because of my dark skin, but has 2 stepdaughters who look like him and treats them like royalty. My stepmom comes to me crying and says he's been calling her the N-word behind her back. I'm reading here about a 10-plus year affair between my dad and our family friend. I have 2 younger half-sisters who are the same age as my kids. The affair blew the lid off everything and destroyed my father's relationships with both me and my sisters. It's been a few years and my sisters have pretty much gone no contact, cutting off my mother's and my support. I'm here to figure out how to make amends for the things I said out of my own hurt and disappointment. My sisters still firmly believe Dad is a low-life loser who ruined everything. My kids are mostly raised, they're in middle and high school, so I'm not overly concerned about their opinions unless there's something major I'm missing. My sisters are in their early 20s, and I'm in my mid-40s. Happy tree, I'm a female, and have been with my wife for nearly 20 years now. Native tree, I'm a counselor, and I'm not paid here, but I'm good at what I do. Explain everything Logic Miller. I understand this is a throwaway account and I won't double post as this site requires. Thanks for understanding. Background, as I mentioned earlier, my siblings and I grew up fairly happy. Dad has always had a little more money than Mom since they were both lawyers. However, he is a partner in a firm, and should his clients settle the right way, he has more money than he knows what to do with. He was also a big-time Cadillac man, so at any given point in our childhood we either had a brand new or nearly new flagship Cadillac in the driveway. Mom was just slightly less affluent than that. We took vacations every year. Regardless of the season, we camped in national parks, surfed in California, and skied in Hawaii. She preferred to drive SUVs, primarily to taunt Dad. On top of that, she began to acquire her jewelry and watches over the past 20 years, and they're generally custom-made, or at least top-level, thanks to Dad's settlements. Additionally, every weekend, Dad would take us kids out to do something: baseball, football, race cars, karting. We did them all, often without regard for our ages. We learned to read on our own, and once we had our driving permits, we visited art galleries and exhibitions. We engaged in cultural activities, attended plays, and had as full and rich a life as Dad could provide. After the 2000s, with the advent of tablet technology, those experiences changed from him literally handing us a tablet to supplementing the experience ourselves. Mom, on the other hand, would spend her weekends with friends, repeatedly telling us children to leave her alone and not bother her. All of this was exacerbated in the 90s when my sisters were gendered as Barbie dream house princesses. The 2- and 3-year-olds would throw silent tantrums about not being as important or treated like family. They both eventually withdrew from that dynamic. The 2 of them still basically maintain nothing more than silent rituals with her. My dad and I remained close through college and my career path, but I have never aspired to the life he leads. I'm quieter than him by both nature and spirit. I'm far more like my mother, albeit without her narcissistic tendencies, and I generally try to avoid confrontation whenever possible. I've been left to navigate the narcissism to keep the peace without letting it drag the rest of my family down too much. With my father's money, that also meant I have always lived where he wanted, if work or school required it. I married young, had my first daughter just under 9 months after my wedding, and my second was born 13 months later. When they were 6 and 7, I came out to everyone, and that led to a huge fallout. My in-laws and my side of the family refused to engage meaningfully with me until his father passed away. The contact once a year at most that my wife and I had to arrange was limited, facilitated only by my side of the family. My daughters were hardly ever needed, and my mother harbored true spite, giving my first daughter Adonai. I don't view that as a conversion program. It was my choice to be culturally active, maybe that's the right term for it, per state and federal constraints. According to my mother's Hebrew observances, she banked the girls I ended up with a second child after managing to navigate the risks to my health, doing whatever was necessary to support the two of them. There is a sense of reverence. My wife essentially receives companion-level treatment from my family. My wife is a native Hawaiian woman I met in college, the daughter of an Irish father and a native Hawaiian mother deeply rooted in traditional culture, although she is part of Generation X+3. My mom is SKS, slightly kind of standoffish, and often behaved as though she were Hawaiian because of the second wave of tourism to Hawaii during that era. My wife receives an "I'm not worthy" treatment, not as severe, however, given the family history of travel to Hawaii. My wife's proficiency, being the daughter of a professor of anthropology, in articulating real Hawaiian history, and my close ties to her family have all contributed to her acceptance. We have always returned to Hawaii, at least every 3 to 4 years, if not more frequently, especially during college where I spent every summer with her family. I'm sure there's a cultural racism angle to this, but both my wife and I realized that her family could communicate comfortably in English instead of Hawaiian, and I even learned hula dancing to ensure I wouldn't feel overwhelmed and lost. She broke away from the traditional hula community and clan practices for me. My wife and I are doing exceptionally well. Her business just took off this year, and we know we are among the top 100% of American families and students. One of my kids is in high school with a GPA of 70, the other is also in high school and meeting college requirements along with exceptional test scores, placing them in the top 1%. Last year, when the two of them were rounding out their middle school years, Dad brought them along with my mom to his timeshare and essentially spoiled the entire weekend, presenting it as a trophy and a do-over. My younger sisters have both been sidelined from that experience. The three of them spent their time together at the range, and joking around, they all learned how to work with concrete and bragged about it. Apparently, Mom said something to him or was within earshot, which led him to complain that our group has a 7th or 8th initiative of producing Hawaiian culture, his language, that has done nothing for us. The two of us should give his girls more time and attention. Over the past year, my kids and I have all been invited to 2 different week-long events, and I have mostly declined. They have attended a couple of the events, but are slowly growing resentful of these dynamics. When they became frustrated with his behavior to the point where my firstborn daughter nearly exploded at Dad during the second weekend, we could sense his irritation. It got worse when he threw money at the two of them in front of me, as if they were just little girls to be quieted. Worth cash, in so many words. My first daughter's reaction quite literally made her explode. In her emotional outburst, she quoted, "I am a female, I'm not anyone's little girl to be bought like a toy, and anything like that from a male is disgusting." She went on to stipulate that he should never expect anything from us after I have kids. Since then, both my kids' invites have returned to just me being invited. He and Mom have gone and booked travel to Hawaii at the timeshare and have been posting about it on social media as if there's no tomorrow. Apparently, both my sisters and their respective partners have joined them. It was subtly implied, I don't know how long it will be before the next escalation. Story 3. When I stand up to my parents, they cut contact. Hi, I'm a 22-year-old female, and about 2 years ago, my brother B came out as gay, receiving an incredibly damaging response from our parents. My mother initially seemed supportive, but she was concerned about the testosterone and radical left he was exposed to here in California because he's a sociology major who is really into radical politics. My dad flipped, sending him to Grandma's R in the puritanical Midwest the day he told them he was gay and locking him out of the house literally. Both B and I are adults, and before the pandemic, I lived and worked in Seattle. I came home to California to visit and spend time with family when my emergency occurred. Everyone was on lockdown, and I got stuck here. When I was getting ready to go back to Seattle, I did have a job to return to. My parents told me I couldn't because they were afraid I would bring COVID into their house and infect my unvaccinated, asthmatic mother. They also told me I couldn't live in my own apartment that I rented because they didn't consider it safe. The locks had been changed while I was at my parents', sis. They knew I was coming back. I didn't have the money to launch a legal challenge, and Seattle was going back into restrictions anyway. So I am stuck here in my parents' home. Okay, got the background. Dad, my father, and Mom were in their bedroom when I went to get some calms from Mom. I don't usually go into their room because it's generally off limits. However, if I have a legitimate reason to do so, I can. Anyway, Dad was naked. They weren't expecting me, and he just apologized and laughed. He's not modest and really not shocked, but I found it kind of awkward. I laughed because I was a little shocked and just started talking to Mom about what I needed. Dad was a bit annoyed by the whole situation, freeballing in front of a naked man and a woman talking about needing combs, hair products, and stuff without any concern that he was naked front and center. I got my stuff and left. Later that day, while talking to him, he made a joke about DC freaking out. He did storm out, considering my comment. He only gave a quick zap of objection and didn't humor my reference. So I brought it up again to see if he was offended. I was a little worried that he snapped, so I brought it up when we were out for a walk. I didn't play around, I just told him right away that Dad said, "Yeah, well, it's your mom, it's no secret, and I'm afraid I'll die before she doesn't hook up with someone out of grief. Plus, he still has needs, which I really respect him for just admitting. I mean, no big deal." I brought it up, and he said Mom as well. That is a brazen yes. When I expressed that I'm not looking down on them, I made it clear my folks are older, and they aren't radiant people or aging. He's been ethical with his needs, and I don't want to think about my parents hooking up. I did tell him not to do it out of grief and reminded him he's free to do what he wants as long as he wants me to be his son, and that's that. My rad dad blew me away when he shared this story with me. It was cool. He respected me, but I knew Mom had some fun on that note, and that Mom had dated some guys over the years. Did Mom cheat while married to Dad? As a kid, she needed funds and had men around. Mom sent me to Grandma to learn about the ships and fishermen, but didn't tell me that Mom hooked up with them. When I got older, I just thought Mom liked hanging with sailors. In that regard, my mom did cheat on Dad and sent me to Grandma so I could learn about her affairs, ships, sailors, and cheating. By the way, Mom would get mad that she had to watch over me whenever she wanted to go out with one of these guys. A few days went by, and before I knew it, Mom was asking me if I wanted some of the stuff Dad sent for me to look at. I don't remember the package or anything, but there was a letter in the box from Dad. Mom asked me if I had really read through and understood the content because she didn't think it was age appropriate or developmentally suitable. She said that she could help with sexual understanding. I had just been overwhelmed and eliminated by the content, feeling forced that they had revealed this material. Here, let me quote the letter. "Dear O, I must apologize for exposing you to vulgarity in the reading material I sent that wasn't really suitable for your age group. And I understand why you might call me a frickin' thing for that. But naked people in your bathroom ridiculous and clownish to me. Let me explain my reasoning. I'm truly sorry if I have been a source of embarrassment or discomfort for you. I want to explain my side of things in the hope that you can understand why I open up about something so sensitive. We live in a society that doesn't believe in men having sexual and emotional needs or burning desires. To come up with them intellectually or communicate about things is almost entirely connected with their mothers and without their permission or consent, so frankly, I felt freely humiliated. When your mother needs, when she needs something, I hope to hear back from you about anything from the letter. I wrote it to you with great conflict, because I genuinely care, think of you, and love you. Like I said, I feel great joy when I see you. Dad, though. I found it ultra whack that he would let Mom think she doesn't have to worry about her nakedness around others. People should be concerned with sexual literacy, relationships, and children's development. Dad and Mom separated, they said divorce in the letter, but I noted the language. Update: when Mom read the letter out loud to me, she apologized for the content I read, which I guess humiliated me. I was humiliated by the letter she wrote to Dad and confirmed that she had hooked up with other guys while separated from Dad. Again, while she was on calls, Mom would have me close by while she dated the whole time. A few more days went by and the stack of papers about affairs and relationships piled up. It felt overwhelming and invasive. I thought it was absolutely absurd and crazily narcissistic. My parents seemed utterly oblivious to how I was doing, and I started to really approach Dad about the fact that Mom was using me all the time, daily, weekly, and monthly. After getting really mad, I recounted to him everything, bypassing, glossing over, and talking about her affairs, checkered past, and my own expectations. I got to a point where Dad said, "Hey, I see how your mom isn't respecting boundaries if she's with guys who have dubious morals." I felt as if I alerted him that my folks are tangled up in a big mess. It hadn't occurred to me until that conversation that someone should be watching out for me, or I should be out of the conversation altogether. There were a few days I didn't speak to B. Unfortunately, there was a weekend where I felt completely blocked. When I say I want some space or a break, I mean it. I shut down and don't answer. Frankly, I'm not who I am when I'm like this. I didn't see him for a week, and when I finally came in to see him, he looked shocked, beamed like he had been hit by a ton of bricks. I expressed that he looked washed out and baggy. Then I, very dumbly, wondered if I could ask him for help. Mom was less than thrilled by the look on her face. Then she sprang up out of her chair, as my therapist pointed out. She said something along the lines of not hearing me come in and that she needed to go start calling people. She walked out looking disoriented and mumbling to herself. It was no secret she needed more help than I could give. I was feeling the effects of their difficulties clearly. I said, "Gotta smell my ship and love you." "Dad," my dad replied, "Love you too, come visit." I felt crushed by the weight of it all, physical reminders, deep emotions, and family drama soaked through our home. Now I have a case of toilet paper by my bed and an assortment of hair products in the house pressed onto me. I don't sit in the common areas anymore, have taken to isolating myself, crying and feeling trapped in a cognitive fog, knowing I have depression, ADHD, and anxiety. Who knows? I'm functional enough to seek counseling. I've taken previous advice to heart as the financial strain has hit hard. I'm living under the weight of this family turmoil. I can't express it all, and yes, I exposed this to my therapist, who pointed out that something bad might be going on. This is one of those complicated, ongoing situations. I'm one of those trains linked together. So again, thank you for your sympathies, and I'm sorry to share this weighty burden. I'm really sorry to hear about everything. It sounds incredibly difficult, and I understand how chaotic family dynamics can be. Please take care of yourself, and don't hesitate to lean on supportive friends or professionals. XX, yeah, this is heavy stuff. I think there's more to unpack here than anyone realizes, but your feelings matter. Consider talking to a legal advisor about your living situation too. I'm weighing my options, still connecting with supportive groups to test the waters. I'll keep reading, thinking about the affairs, and what relationships mean. In closing, the context of where and when this is happening is like the ebb and flow of the tides. The discussions around family and their behaviors drown me, and it stems from how I was raised. To update, I posted the first part of my Reddit update with timestamps, topics, and additional thoughts. Thank you so much for your comments and support. I read everything, and I feel a gleam of hope amidst this storm. Story 4. My father is 57 years old. He loves his 26-year-old daughter, Jessica, the most. Jessica knows everything about this, and she hates me as well. She is still in her first year of college. She was supposed to go to high school, but my father's attorney forged her date of birth so she would be 18 already. That's why she was able to enter college. Now they both think I am dumb and unable to know anything about them. I am in my final year of college and doing quite well. Also, I happen to be engaged to my boyfriend of 3 years. He graduated recently and has gotten a pretty good job, so we are planning our wedding for later this year. Our parents are funding the wedding, and that is why I am putting up with their nonsense. Otherwise, I would have cut them off long ago. Jessica, on the other hand, cannot be cut off because she is getting more and more brazen with each passing day. She has started to bully me in front of other people, including my grandparents, aunts, and uncles. She mostly makes comments like I will end up divorced before the year ends or that my fiancé will leave me for a more attractive woman. Last week, she commented on me getting fat in front of everybody. Thankfully, nobody took her seriously, and everyone knows I'm healthy and working out to get fitter. My father just laughed at her comments, but my mother rebuked them, so they stopped. In the afternoon of the same day, while my mother was out shopping, my father invited Jessica to his house, and they were alone together for some time. I had no business going there because I wouldn't have left them alone together. Unfortunately, I didn't know my mother had slipped out. A few hours later, they were discovered together by Jessica and my mother. Jessica didn't react, but my mother flipped out so badly that she ended up having a nervous breakdown. My father and Jessica had that planned out. He had been cheating on my mother for the past 8 years, and Jessica is the result of the affair. If she hadn't taken a DNA test, we would have never known. Even after finding out, my father continued the affair and gaslighted my mother for 8 years. He only moved out 2 years ago and made room for Jessica to come into the house. My mother ended up spending more than 3 hours arguing with him and questioning him about everything because it felt like nothing was adding up. My father was here at my university, his office is nearby, and he comes here every week but never brings either of them home. Today he brought Jessica and sat here talking to her, calling her his daughter when he was never a part of her life. He took her out of the school and put her in a college he graduated from. Not even his actual daughter can spend more time with her when she is not his daughter. The audacity of that man and his disgusting daughter. If I had known they were here, I wouldn't have come down during my break. When Jessica found out that my mother knows the truth, she made a big scene in the house, saying that I am infertile and that I'm just getting married to fulfill my mother's wish so she can show off. She went on to say that since my father is cheating on his wife, I should be getting premium services before paying marriage penalties. I was silent for a long time, and then one day I heard my father bragging about how Jessica is his beautiful and smart girl. I ended up tearing apart Jessica's sheet and pen test paper after she received a C grade. She was so mad about it that she started screaming, and my father took her side, saying that an educated girl like me shouldn't be so insecure and jealous of her. I wanted to flay her alive, but I kept my mouth shut and didn't say a word. My mother had come to the house some time back and caught Jessica with my father. She was enraged because they knew that both of them and I, like a son, would turn up. I didn't show up to rub it in her face because these two know better than anyone else who my priority is. They never act like I'm their child. They only need me when they cannot achieve something together or need funding from the family. Otherwise, they only have eyes for Jessica. Well, I did meet with my mother, and we had a long chat about many things. I'll let on to this subject and this subject alone. I will be avenging her today.